So this is the Posthuman podcast. This is a pre-show. In 10 minutes' time, we have a great guest coming up. Mackenzie Douglas, driving for Ginetta, driving in the Ginetta for Fox Motorsports. Now, this is the first for the show. We've not had a racing driver on, let alone a professional racing driver. Now, prior to the show, and this is all live, by the way, we also have a great giveaway coming up for an Xbox Series S, presented to us by our very brand new sponsor of the show and partner, Hub's Goods, Jeff Hubble. He's live with us today, and trust me, he's got some good stuff, and he's selling our official merchandise, people. It's been 2 years, and now our merch is finally on the shelves for a very limited run. So let's quickly bring Jeff in. How are you today, Jeff? You all good?
I'm doing great, man. How about yourself?
I'm very good, man. We've been very busy the last few days. Very, very busy. So yeah, great show coming up. I'm going to give this company a shout out probably about 4 times in the show. If you ever want to win a car, SRC Promotions, hit them up. It's very rare that you can enter a raffle, and get a car. These guys do it. Trust me. If you, I don't even drive, and I'm entering. Do you know why? Because I will pay someone to drive that car for me. So that's coming up. We've got SRC Promotions. We're promoting Ginetta, promoting Fox Race Sports, and we've got some good stuff coming up. We're going to be fully live with our guest in about 8 minutes. Prior to that, we've got some good music coming up too. We haven't got any new artists on the bill because I've been very lazy. And funnily enough, so lazy that I've been waiting for Ye's new release. That's how lazy I am, people. Ye's new song, Everybody, it slaps. So if we can get away with playing that at some point post-show, we're going to play that. We might get copyright striked, but that's coming up maybe at the end of the show. Listen, we're going to kick it off with one more little shout out. And this is to myself. Happy Christmas, Tim. What a cool jumper you have on today. Look at this. We're wearing Yay ourselves. That's a shout out to me because very rarely happens, you know. So great show coming up. We've got a few songs coming up. And then at 30 minutes past 7 GMT, UK time, we are going to be live fully with our guest. Thank you very much, people. And we'll see you in 6 minutes. Thank you. Get ready for the music.
I don't wanna feel this way anymore, so I'm gonna take it out on the floor. My depression makes me go insane. I just wanna dance away the pain. I don't wanna feel this way anymore, so I'm gonna take
in a state that I hate like hell. Great to be back in a state that I hate like hell. Great to be back in a state that I hate like hell.
One of the worst, horrible.
Cut weight, right? Cut weight, right? Cut weight, right?
We only have a make American brain movement. We only have a make American brain movement. We only have a make American brain.
Easily number one.
We only have a make American polls, which may be one of the worst. Make American.
Greatest,
Nobody
greatest.
make
Do
American.
you remember?
The only thing I remember.
Greatest, greatest. Do you remember?
The only
Greatest fake, the greatest, greatest fake. Do you remember?
The only thing
Greatest
I
fake.
make American.
Nobody
Nobody
remembers.
which one took advantage of the world.
Cause I hate like hell.
One took advantage of the world. Nobody
Cause I hate like hell. Witch hunts on our back.
of the world.
Cause I hate like hell. I hate like hell. The one is there. Do you remember?
Kill the world. Kill the world.
I will let them
Kill the world.
like you've never heard.
Make American.
I will let them
Kill the world.
like you've never heard.
Make American.
I will let them
Kill the world.
like you've never heard.
Make American.
I will let them
Kill the world.
like you've never heard.
That's cut way back. 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 Which right?
Great to be back. It is 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 great to be back. It
In a state that I hate like hell.
It is great to be back.
In a state that I hate like hell.
Make American.
Oh my God, we're back again. Brothers, sisters, everybody say. Gonna bring the flavor, show you how. Got a question for you, better answer now. Am I original? Yeah. Am I the only one? Yeah. Am I sexual? Am I everything you need? You better rock your body now. Everybody. Rock your body. Everybody. Rock your body right. Easy's back. All right. All right.
When I talk to the shrink, you bet not blink. 99 problems that start with the kink. One in a pink, one in a stink. When you shave it down, is it still mink? Come sue me, me to me. Surviving, yay, come shoot me. You wanna color me bad like a cool G. You wanna pack me up like a to me. Everybody waiting for me to say the wrong thing. Okay, you the king, Burger King. I'm finna make a scene, murder scene. Cause homie, we done seen everything.
With the bad little mommies. You know I wanna rock your body. You know I wanna do some things. Like tear that pussy out the frame. We some top flow, penthouse, sweet type niggas. I am not a rapper, I'm a poom poom killer. Slim, handsome, rich head nigga. No, we can't forget about the bitch head niggas. So if you love the game, then pour them titties out. We got everything you need for you to rock your body now.
Girl, for me like you supposed to, and don't be in your feelings, I can't post you. Double rock pics, fix you. I already got a color, I go ghost to. Ain't tripping if I lost you. You think real life like a cartoon. Stand tall like a brush stool. Ain't time to shine rack, I mean shit move.
Everything you need for you to rock your body now.
that was Shotgun Mike Hostetler. Very, very good artist. Hi there, Mackenzie. How's it going? Welcome
I'm
to the
good.
Post
How are
Human
you?
Podcast.
Thank you
I'm
very much.
very, very good. So this is the Post Human Podcast. Again, today's guest, professional GT racing driver for Fox Motorsport, number 24, racing in the Ginetta, one of my favorite cars, Mackenzie Douglas. So welcome to the show. How's it going?
Very good. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to our good conversation ahead.
No. Well, we had a mild conversation the other day, which was very fun. Just before we get into the conversations, I just want to give a shout out to SRC Promotions and Fox Motorsports and Hubs Goods for putting this together. So let's crack into the interview. So, from the research I've done, you started driving from the age of 4, correct?
Yes, I started in go-karts in my local circuit and progressed my way up through the ranks and found myself in the Ginettas, as you said.
So what got you into go-kart racing?
I think it was always going to be the way I chose, as my dad was very into cars, as he was, and by coincidence, we were driving past our local kart circuit, and I really wanted to have a go, and then just we haven't stopped since.
I mean, it's crazy because my son's 4, and and crazily enough, I couldn't actually imagine him in like a go-kart. So it's like super talented. Like I haven't got him on a little push bike with stabilizers. So the fact that you started from the age of which essentially my son is, that is very, very impressive. Like
Thank you.
super impressive. So what's the local track to yourself?
It's Landau. It's Landau Circuit, and it's only about a 10-minute drive away. So compared to where we're traveling now, it's not too far.
Course, got you. So what you again during your time again, the age of 4? When was it that you started getting racing professionally? What was the exact age?
Well, racing at the level I am now is very different to karting because you're as pretty much I've gone from child leagues now to adult leagues, and so I think only in the past 2 years, and now it's starting to get really, really serious, ramping up in there.
Right. Okay. I mean, again, I'm a big racing fan, but there's small things that you just don't know about. It's people look at like Lewis Hamilton as a UK example, and again, he started young. You've almost got the same sort of career progression yourself. But people don't quite know the full ins and outs. They can tell their own career, but back in the day, is you don't quite know where it was because it's all tabloids and gossip. Whereas in modern day times, it's really cool because there's podcasting and social media, and it kind of gives you more of an edge in a way because you can kind of document your journey more. You kind of know what's going on more. Do you still do go-karting?
No, I haven't been in a go-kart in a good few years now, so it's not something I miss, but I'd like to jump back in and have a go, see what it's like.
Is there? Do you think? Because obviously, when you started and you there's a clear progression, which you have to do to get to the level that you're at now. So in terms of go karting, because I used to when I used to be a kid, my dad was in the gym equipment business, and where the powder coaters was, and for what powder coaters, people don't know what they are. It's basically where you go to drop steel off that get powder coated with paint. And basically, next door to that was a go-karting track. And every other day, I would be next to it, but I'd never really been in there. But I'd always look in there, and there was people whizzing around. This was in Coventry. There was always people whizzing around, and I'd always, thought, oh man, I'd love to do that. So obviously, when it comes to like the age 4 to your age now, what do you think has been like some of the biggest sort of obstacles for yourself? Or, well, not even necessarily obstacles, but has there been like moments where you're going, this I'm getting on with this. This is where I should be going. What was that moment for you where you sort of realized that there's this next level,
I think the defining moment for me was my debut in cars in Donington. I think turning up on the first race weekend and seeing the sheer amount of fans at the track and the level that all the guys brought to that one race weekend really shown to me what it's all about. You know how much effort you got to put in to be at the front.
Well, I mean, well, that's the thing as well. Is there's only a few sports on planet Earth where you know you're either first or last. You know,
Yeah.
shout out Kenny Power, not Kenny Powers. That's a Tallahassee Knights. Taglade? I don't know. Doesn't matter. But if you're not first, you're last. And there's only very few sports that are like that. You know, football is a big UK thing, but there's no, you know, anyone can do that. Anyone can kick a ball, but if nobody can drive a supercharged race car around a track at, you know, almost 200 mile an hour, it's a different league. So I just want to go over just a little bit about go-karting. What's one of your favorite go-karting tracks?
I think it's a common one, but PF International in Yorkshire, that's a personal favourite. You know, it's all the undulations, a bridge, which you rarely come across. Also, I enjoyed Campios out in Spain. That was that was my debut European race, and that was really really good fun. You know, it's like I said, that's a completely different thing to UK racing as well. So both of those tracks are both good experiences.
I mean, that's another. Again, I've got like a whole cue sheet of questions, but occasionally I'll go off on tangents. Is there much of a difference between the Spanish go-karting and UK?
I think the sheer size of the tracks, especially out in Europe, are much bigger. That's the first
Oh,
thing you
okay.
notice. When I first went out in track in Spain, you notice how it feels like a car track in a way. The
Right.
tracks, I think, as the tracks, well, it makes sense. As the tracks get better and more quality, the sheer size of them, and especially physicality, that definitely increases. I think that's the biggest difference.
Well, I mean, it's funny that you say that because the track that was that again I mentioned earlier was built inside of a warehouse, and I would imagine that it was very technical to go around, just because it wasn't big, you know. But they put in a lot of these, you know, small corners, really tight bends, and it's just something I always remembered as a child. But I'd always love to see what a go karting track would be like in a different country because in the UK I know we're big for it, but it's just you don't really hear much about anything outside of the UK in terms of like go karting or even racing. You know, it's just all from this our British standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think Britain definitely has the highest level of competition for racing, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of big championships over here in karting. I mean, the British Kart Championship, that's very competitive. So going with the UKC as well, and that goes all the way up to the cars. I mean, you've got British GT, British Touring Cars, GB3. I mean, it's a competitive it's a competitive environment to be in.
What's your favorite league?
What do you mean by favorite race series?
Yeah, serious. Sorry, I'm talking like I'm talking like I'm on a game right now. Sorry.
Um, no, it's a difficult one because some are so difficult to compare. For example, you got the two top pro categories probably in the UK of British GT and British Touring Cars, but it's a completely different type of racing. Like British Touring Cars is a 20 lap sprint, but then British GT can be 2 hours or something like that, mainly an hour. So I think British GT is definitely a standout because the quality of drivers, they come from all over the world. The likes of Jules Gounon, Marciello, they all come to the UK to race. So I think British GT, which is my end goal, is probably my personal favourite.
What? Absolutely. I mean, I've been a big GP fan for as long as I know. I've got so many friends that are into GT that they've got over the years. They got me into it, but it was something that I don't know. The UK's tracks are so different compared to everywhere else around the world. Like weirdly enough, we have weird tracks. They're very, I don't know. To, it's weird to me. They seem very classical. Whereas if you looked at, what they just did in Las Vegas, which by the way didn't work out that work out that great.
Yeah.
But there's differences, and I think that the UK, again, I'm a novice. I don't. This is just my rubbish opinion. I think like we have these very classical style tracks, it's which I feel are really difficult to race.
Yeah, like as I said, I think it's a similar thing with the karting tracks. Like the karting tracks, the car and karting tracks do definitely feel smaller in the UK. They feel less, not updated as such, just smaller, more technical. I think that's different to the big open style of other tracks abroad.
Well, I mean, one thing I like about America is a lot of their tracks, because they do speedway, it's all flat. So they'll have like this speedway ring, but then they'll, on the same course, they'll have it, which is some of those ridiculous, and it seems almost very harder because there's no apexes, there's nothing, and next thing you're going into some weird bend that you should have hit from essentially like a bridged angle. I don't know if that's the quite way to say it. I don't know all the terminology, but you should essentially be like that. And you sort of coming in flat to like barely a 10-degree angle, which I love racing. But I personally, I don't feel like I know enough, which is again why I love having interviews with people like yourself. What do you feel was the hardest thing transitioning from go-karting to obviously what you're doing now?
I think there's a lot of differences to take on board when you're learning to drive a car at speed from a go-kart. I think everyone would probably guess it's the size or driving on the left or the right because you're no longer in the middle. But I think it's more about weight transfer and how the car reacts to your inputs on that if that's steering, throttle, or brake. I think that's the biggest thing to get your head around with weight transfer. Like I said, I think once you got it, it takes a while to get, but I think once you got it, it's a really good skill to have.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's strange because it's so weird. It's almost not really a comparison, but it's like going from a tricycle to a motorbike. There's no other real comparison you can do. You literally in this very, very small, tight go-kart, and which is pretty reasonably big, but if you compare it to a genuine race car, huge size difference, and it's such a strange thing because I can only drive in second gear. Just to point out, by the way, I've only ever drove once, and I barely made it out of first gear. So if anything, I could only drive probably a electric automatic car, which again, that isn't a joke. I actually don't drive, but I would love to do like a track day, and I know that Janetta do that, and I want to talk about that a little bit later because they do pretty cool track days. Very expensive, but pretty cool. Was there any sort of moment during the transition? So, how old were you when you transitioned from go kart to on the racetrack?
I think I was about 14, 15.
Wow.
So I think the earliest you can enter a car to race is 14. So
that's so crazy.
I jumped in as soon as I could.
That's crazy. Do you think it's strange that you can do like racing on a track, but you couldn't do it on a road? Not like you couldn't get a license on a road?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit irritating to know that I can't drive on the road when
you can
I
do.
could probably drive better than most people on the road anyway. But I bet it's weird to other people that I was driving a race car around a circuit at serious speed when I was 14. And then people who already drive on the road see me as a baby. So yeah, it's quite weird. It's quite annoying at times, but I've only got 5 months till I can drive on the road still. So yeah, not too long.
I think there should be like a system, obviously because of the legalities in the UK, but I genuinely think there should be a system in place where if you are a genuine race car driver or even a stunt driver, it should bypass pretty much most of your driving test because what do you really learn? Apart from the signs, anyone, you're doing that in your theory test. It's not tricky. But
Yeah, well,
but in terms of maneuverability, you're pretty good, you know.
yeah, well, believe it or not, I have a few mates who I race with, and they failed their road test. So yeah, so it's definitely a similar sort of thing, but I think knowing what some random sign says on the side of the road is different to what I normally do. So yeah,
That's pretty hilarious. That I would
yeah.
never expect that. That professional drivers are out there. What again? I don't mean to pry. What was it? Just the signs that they failed on? Because
I
normally it's
don't
just
know.
small stuff, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to ask, to be honest. I don't think he was the happiest about it, as you could probably guess. So no, I'm not too sure, but I was hoping something to do with the signs, not the driving. So yeah.
Well, imagine if it was something like parallel parking. You'd be like, oh, geez, like that'd be
Yeah,
crazy. So,
yeah.
during this time, obviously, you started at the age of 4. You know, you're literally just coming up to driving age now. Has there been any sort of obstacles that you've had to face during this time? You know, because it's a long period of time. You know, you're pretty young. When I was your age, I was messing around. I didn't have my head on my shoulders. You seem like your head's fully on your shoulders. Um, is there anything that's sort of like where you was transitioning? You know, things can maybe get a bit hard, and you go, okay, this is what it is, but I have to crack on. You know, sort of things like that.
I think not necessarily with the driving. I think obviously as you climb the ranks, you progress as a driver yourself. I think it's more things away from the track, how you conduct yourself to other people,
Of course.
to managers, whoever it may be. I think that's one thing that you gotta be good away from the driving. I think most people don't really take that into consideration as part of a driver's role. So I think that is definitely, I wouldn't describe it as much as of a barrier, but it's one thing I've definitely had to learn. That is
It's
really important as well.
Well, that's the other thing as well. It's a learning curve because you know, essentially, you know, in 5 years you could be on the main screen, you could be, and you know, conducting interviews with far better journalists than me. You know, so it's almost like a train. You know, this is like these training wheels, isn't it? You know, and essentially, when you are, you know, at any given moment, you could be in the full public limelight, and to be able to do that conducting yourself socially, etiquette wise, I would imagine that is something that needs to sort of come naturally to a driver. Not only just on, you know, in terms of if you're meeting all high end racing companies, but even just to keep your composure in certain driving situations, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like as a driver, we get interviewed as soon as we're out the car or whenever, when the adrenaline's still pumping and you've still got to conduct yourself. Maybe some person's annoyed you or whatever's happened on track, you've got to conduct yourself in a good manner. Well, I had the opportunity from Janetta to coach a bunch of influencers at their factory
Cool.
this week. So I think that was also something a bit different where, I was on camera for other people. So I think, like I said, conducting yourself is a really important thing as a driver.
How do you find it? In terms of because I personally I try to keep myself a bit loose, but I know I'm still speaking to the world. And during, you know, especially during this era, for all I know, someone in 10 years' time could come and sue me for something so small. And so that's why sort of I keep myself aware, but I keep myself loose. But I would imagine that not that you're walking on eggshells, but I would imagine that there's a very higher caliber of having, you know, levels of respect for not only the industry but everyone else. I know that, you know, drivers can get fined and, you know, penalted and penalized if for improper conduct as such.
Yeah, yeah. With like Motorsport UK, who obviously run majority of events, they have their rule of race and respect. So that's all about respecting whoever it may be at the track, not necessarily just driver to driver, but officials or
Stewards and yeah.
anyone. It's really important.
So we're gonna cut to a little promo in a minute. Just again, we've got this giveaway to do. Just one quick last question before then. Obviously, it's a super competitive industry that you're in. I am in a super competitive industry also, and I have rivals. You haven't got to name any, but have you got any personal rivals where you go, "Oof, I'd love to just get you up on the next lap"? You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to name names. I don't name mine, but it's always good for humility.
Yeah, and you know, it changes every year. You're not racing against the same people every year. I've been battling hammer and tongs with different people every season I've been racing. So it's not anyone specific. Like next year, I'm racing with a grid of new people who I've never raced with before. So we not at the minute. Not at the minute. It's been a very up and down year, competitively wise, and like the grid, especially in Genetic Juniors, it's so close. It's hard to have to see one person as a specific kind of enemy, as you may call them. But no. So yeah, no, I don't have one specific at the moment, but there might be some that come around next, and I'm not too sure.
That's a very good answer. So we're going to again, we're just going to do a quick giveaway. During the show, Hub's Goods, again, proud sponsor of our show, and now your team are generously giving away an Xbox Series S. To enter this competition, you need to email Hub's Goods at this exact email address, hubsgoods.contact@gmail.com, with the subject Xmas bonus with an X. Yeah. The closing date for this competition will be the 27th. You have 5 days to send in a little email to hubsgoods@contact.contact@gmail.com. Doesn't you just put in the message, I want the Xbox, or whatever you want, a personalized message. And the winner of that will be revealed on the 29th, essentially by myself during a live show. I just wanted to give that quick reminder. That is hubsgoods.contact@gmail.com. Hope I nailed all that correctly. So, again, that was a quick little promo. So, what's it like driving a Janetta?
I mean, it's a really cool experience. I mean, they're great race cars, everything about them. Like moving, like I've experienced, luckily enough, two of them, of the Junior and now the GT Pro car, and they're so different. I mean, obviously the Junior's on road tires, so it handles a lot different. It handles a lot different to the GT Pro. Obviously, the GT Pro is on full Michelin slicks or Pirelli for next year. So yeah, they're very different cars.
How come it's on road tires? What's the reason for that?
I'm not too sure, but all I know
Okay.
it creates really good racing, and the cars are awesome to drive. They move a lot. They move a lot in the corners, so they're a handful to keep a hold of. So yeah, they're good cars to drive. I mean, the GT Pro is completely different. It's obviously not sequential like the Junior is. It's paddle shift. Obviously, like I said, on slicks, the brakes are much different to the Junior. They're much more powerful. The car like almost stops in an instant. So yeah,
What sort of G-force do you get in them?
I think in the Junior it wasn't too high, but obviously because it's on road tire, it slips. It can't really hold that much grip. I'm not too sure on the GT Pro. I'll maybe guess around 3G in the fast corners. I'm not too sure, but you can definitely feel it on your neck after a few laps. So I'm gonna have to get used to that one over time.
That's ace. Have you ever thought about getting one of those? It's like a neck thing. It's like it's strapped to the wall with like a bunch of weights on it, or it's got like an elastic cord. It's like a neck trainer, like a head trainer. I don't know if that would be so good. I don't know if that would be good for racing car drivers. I've always been half under the assumption that racing car drivers, they're almost not quite built like racing jockeys, but they're almost my height. I'm 5'6", pretty small. I couldn't imagine someone that's like 6'4" in a racing car. So I've always imagined people small like myself in cars. Do you think it makes a genuine difference, like weight reduction wise?
Weight reduction wise, I don't think so. I think it makes more of a difference when you're in the single seater stuff. I think
Okay.
the taller you get, and like quite a big issue is how big your feet are.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
It's not so much of an issue in tin tops or GT cars. Obviously you don't want to be too tall or too small. Like I'm 6 foot now, so
Wow, man, that's crazy.
yeah.
I always thought drivers were small, man. Oh, god damn,
Honestly,
you dwarf me.
yeah, I think it makes more of a difference in the single seater stuff because obviously this area you sit is smaller. So I
Wow.
think a lot of single seater drivers they wear boots that are too small, a size smaller. If their feet are that big, I'm not too sure on the exact size. It probably varies with each model, but yeah, not so much in GT cars, but I think in the single seaters it makes a big difference.
But I mean, it's funny that you say that because I've never. The one thing that you, crazily enough, you never think about is the feet size. I've never. I've been following racing for probably 20 years, and I've not once thought. I wonder if there's just a guy with like really big clown-esque feet whoever gets in the car. Like,
Yeah, you don't think about it. It's many things
no.
about.
That's nuts. I mean, obviously, you know about the gears and the paddle shifting. That's crazy,
Yeah.
but you just never think about that. I mean, luckily, I'm a size 7. Would that be perfect, or would that be like off?
I'm not too sure because again, my expertise are really in single seaters, but they'll be definitely be fine in a GT car. But I think you'll be fine in a single seater as well. So
Oh, okay, cool, cool. But no, it's such it's just interesting, you know. It's just weird things. This is why I do podcasting because you never quite know who you're talking to, and there's these random things that you just don't think about.
exactly.
And which you should do because you know you race with your feet, well, and your
Yeah.
hands, obviously. But
Yeah.
you know, if you get what I mean. So what again? You know, next season's coming up. In March, I will be at the Donington Media Day myself personally. How do you think you did last season?
Last season, it was very up and down year. A lot of things were out of our control, but I think I maximised the most I could out of the car, and I done the best I could. I mean, our debut with Fox was great. We got a podium on debut, and I mean,
Nice.
with a lot of things out of control and being in the Genetic Junior Series, which is so tight and the field is so strong, I think we done well for what we could. I think if we had the better equipment beneath us, we definitely could have done better. We were aiming for the title or at least the top 3 next year, but definitely looking forward onto 2024. We're definitely in with a contention of the title.
So by better equipment, what do you mean in terms of like what do you mean? Just out of curiosity.
With the cars, there's always a difference with engines or parts you put in the car. They're not meant to have a difference, but
Right.
some engines just do have that different. Some are better, some are worse. You know what I mean? You can't control it. It's luck of the draw, really. So we had many issues with the car last year with with like the engine and power as such. So that wasn't as a driver, that's not under my control. So we tried our best to get around that, but we did perform well when we could. So I think that was the main thing. It was definitely a big learning year to take away. I took probably a lot more out of that year than I would have if I was at the front with all the best equipment in the world. So I think it's only going to benefit me moving forward.
Well, that's the other thing as well, is sometimes you can be sort of put in a position like that, and you know, kind of puts you back to the wall where you go, okay, the equipment's all, you know, dud. Time to actually use a bit of human skill.
Yeah.
And it kind of almost does benefit you in a way, you know. It's all character building as well, you know. I would imagine that one year is going to be bad, one's good, one's mediocre, one's this, and I guess it's probably, especially with what you're doing, because it's just so fully competitive. You know, one minute you can be at the back and end up at the front. You know, like
Yeah, exactly.
out of some random bout of luck. But
Exactly.
it's so competitive that I would imagine that every company every year is always trying to up their game, and especially with. Well, now I would imagine everything's is the Ginetta electric now. No, okay, okay. Because I know that they've done that with Formula One, and that to begin with, that was a bit of a bust. It didn't quite work out to begin with, huge pitfalls. But at some point, I would imagine that most of it's going to probably go to electric. Do you foresee that happening?
From what I know, I don't know much of the electric coming into race cars. I know there's championships in karting that now have brought electric karting in.
Oh,
I
I
think
bet they're fast. Ooh.
yeah, I think there's 1 or 2 championships of cars that might be electric, but I'm not too sure. But I don't see Janetta moving in that way at the minute. Yeah, again, I'm not a spokesperson for Janetta, so I don't know all the information.
No,
And hopefully, as myself, I'm not a big fan of electric cars myself, but
no, I'm not.
hopefully they don't bring electric in and get away with the nice sounding cars, you know. So hopefully not, but you never know where it's going to end up, do you?
Well, I mean, it's really funny because practically one of the fastest cars on planet Earth at the moment is that Tesla Plaid, which is all electric, and it's an absolute rocket. But
Yeah,
it just makes no noise. And as a car enthusiast, you've got to love the roar of an engine, you know.
exactly. Yeah,
And it's strange as well because if you're racing, you want to hear stuff. It's almost like, especially because you need to hear the engine. You know, if you're just whizzing at 1,000,000 miles an hour with no sound, it kind of cuts your senses off in a strange way. You know, whereas
yeah,
if you're whizzing at 180 mile an hour with a normal engine, you can kind of hear what's going on. You get a bit more of a feel.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but it's so strange. I mean, they do get off, but I'm not a big fan.
Exactly. Like that is a good point. Like you said, there's you get a lot of feel from the engine. You gather when you drive, and you can tell a lot what's going on from the sound itself, not just feeling the car moving around. Like you said, you can hear wheel spin from the engine. You can hear whatever it may be, downshifts or whatever. I think with an electric car, there's that. I personally, like I said, I haven't driven one, but there's like kind of like that numbness to your surroundings. So yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's what it
hopefully
is.
it doesn't grow in the racing industry, but I can see it happening at some point.
Well, it's so tricky, isn't it? Because people are trying to get off fossil fuels, but people love the roar of an engine, and you know, I think it's going to stick around. But it's kind of funny because I asked earlier about what you thought of rallying. What do you think about the worst one, stock car racing? That's an absolute gas guzzler.
Yeah, honestly, that looks really fun. I would love to have a
Thanks.
go because part of it is contact. You're allowed to make contact,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
take each other out, and that sounds quite fun if you're in a bad mood. So yeah, I'd like to have a go with something like that. But yeah, I hope, like I said, hopefully the electric doesn't come in.
No, no. I mean, I'd love to do that myself. I went and watched it live as a kid. The only other time I've seen it, and I was like, "This is awesome," but I've never done it as an adult, and I think I'd love to. So, obviously, next season's coming up, 2024. Do you ever hold any expectations over yourself for the season?
Yeah, I think there's always expectation. Like we had expectation last year. I think coming off we had our one round in the GT Pro at Donington, which is the final round of the season. We moved up early, so I think coming out of that weekend where we had the pace to win them all, but unlucky for us, we had a bit of some car issues with I think it was a gearbox failing in both race 2 and 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like we went in complete lack of experience. We had maybe 2 sessions in the car beforehand, so I think jumping into a completely different thing and being at the front, qualifying P3 and P2, I
That's
think, and having the pace to win and setting the fastest lap of the weekend, I think there's definitely that expectation of next year going right to the top and hopefully win the championship.
what's it like working in a team? Because it's strange because if you had if you had 24 racers and everyone was just individual, it'd be a nightmare, you know. But the fact that they're split into teams of two, what's it like having to work alongside someone? Because essentially everyone wants to be at the front, but
Exactly.
and I would imagine that there's times where, not that it can get tricky, but you kind of in the mic on yourself going, come on, man, just let me get in front. I want the points. What's it? Is there any sort of, is it hard to negotiate that, or is it pretty smooth?
I mean, at the level we're at, there is that small part of teamwork, but at the end of the day, it's every man for themselves. You've worked hard to be there, so I'm not going to let my teammate pass if it's the last lap because the team wants to happen. You know what I mean? But yeah, especially with junior racing last year, you had that bit of teamwork, a bit of drafting, pushing each other through, whatever. But as it comes down to the final lap, you've got no teammates. You've got no teammates on track. It's every man for themselves.
Of course. What's your favorite GT track?
There's so many. I enjoy them all. From the ones I've driven, I mean, you can't complain with Silverstone. Silverstone's an awesome place to
Beautiful.
drive. I enjoyed Donington. Donington, we've had quite a lot of success at Donington. So, yeah, I suited Donington a bit. And Knock Hill is less of a GT track, but more of the junior track. I mean, is one hell of a track to drive with all the undulations and how on the limit it is. I think those are my top three.
Okay. That's anything that overseas. If you could drive on any track that you've not driven on, what would you go for?
There's so many. I mean, Spa's always an interesting one. Obviously with the Rouge and stuff. I'm really looking forward to driving there at some point. And there's so many. There's so many to think of. I mean, a street circuit would be awesome. Maybe the likes of Singapore or
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, not exactly Monaco. Everyone says Monaco or whatever.
I know.
But it's the race in there wouldn't be great. I think from the likes of Singapore, it's open enough to have that racing element to it.
Well, it almost seems hacky now to say, you know, if you go, what's your favorite track? People go, Monaco. And you go, yeah, of course, everyone's is. You know, it's like a little bit hack to say that. But I'm a big fan of Monaco. But it's almost hacky to say so. But Singapore, that's a good one. I'm a big fan of Japan. You know, there's so many really cool tracks out there.
Yeah.
I mean, funnily enough, I've not really been to that many UK tracks. I've been to Silverstone and Donington, but never been Brands Hatch, never been Snetton. So next year, I'm kind of looking forward to coming around and seeing those. That should be pretty fun. So, what do you think was maybe your best and worst moment of last season?
Oh, my best season there's a lot that happened last season. I think the best season was the best moment. Sorry, was definitely the last round in the first race, getting the second, which we had the pace to win. We were really quick. I think going into it with not expecting much, we going there for experience and coming out with a good result. That was probably my best moment. Worst moments. That's a difficult one. There's nothing really stand out. I guess we've had a few DNFs, mechanical failure or crashes or whatever. I guess I don't have a particular worst moment.
Okay.
But yeah, there was a few moments last year that obviously I wasn't particularly happy with, but that's racing, isn't it? Stuff happens.
Because again, you know, so you have to be very cool and collective. Is there any moments? And again, you know, you don't have to really answer this. Is there any moments where you're in that car going, "God, this is so tricky"? You know, it is not as a worst or best moment, but where you feel like you're on the ropes a bit, and you're having to. Again, it's full octane. You know, everything's all in the moment. But is there moments where again, you know, you've got everything going on, and you're just like, man, this is crazy. Like, and you sort of. Obviously, your mind has to be on what's going on, but I would imagine that during parts of the race, your head must sort of wander at points, you know, and I would imagine to keep that on track must be pretty tricky.
Yeah, I think racing as of such, when you're in a difficult, high intensity racing situation, it's you don't have the time to think really. I think the point of the season that probably highlighted what you're saying is definitely the hot weather.
Okay.
Maybe Brands Hatch, because sometimes when you've got that 10 seconds down a main straight to sit back and kind of take a breather, when you really take on board how hot the car is, that's kind of the moment you feel like it's a bit much at some point, but then you're there to do a job, you've got to do it, so you just crack on with it.
So this is another rant again. That's a really good point. One thing again, because you know you have to warm your tires up. Because normally when you're just getting a standard car, you know, you just drive in, and I don't think the tires actually get that hot. I can't imagine that they do. I could be wrong, but what is the real difference between like a very cold tire and a really hot tire? I mean, I know
Uh,
in terms of like grip and stuff like that, but is there more to it than just my simple-minded thinking?
But I mean, obviously the grip's the main thing. But with the road tire, which you probably wouldn't think, the tire is actually best when it's cold.
Right. Okay. That's
So it's the complete opposite to the slick tire. So
huh,
with the road tire, especially in juniors, you've got to get your fast laps in at the start of the session when your tires were at their coldest. So with the slick tire, when the treaded tire, sorry, when that gets warmer, the tires start to flex, which causes the car to slide. So it's the opposite with road tire, with what you would like to expect. So with the slick, I think with it being cold, it's like you said, it's just sheer grip. There's not much responsiveness in the car. You can kind of, if you can't the pits on cold slicks, you turn the wheel and nothing happens. You know.
of course.
So
I mean, it's strange because I don't know if it is a comparison or not. I do a lot of simulated racing. I don't know if you play like any racing games at all.
simulator.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! I couldn't see it because of
Yeah,
the chair.
yeah. It's the triple monitor sim.
Oh wow! I bet you have
Yeah,
fun on that.
yeah. So I spend a bit too much time on it sometimes.
But obviously, is there because again, people the local jailhouse near us have put in a JCB simulator, which apparently makes you pass the test to become a digger, excavator man, or whatever you want to call them. But is there a difference between simulated racing on there and doing it in a car? I know probably if you get a big rig, like a proper rig where it's all fucking bouncing and shit, you could probably it is probably about the same. But what is there a difference?
I mean, it's so hard to simulate everything you feel in a race car. There's so much going on from like you can never simulate G-force. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a big thing. You can never simulate G-force. Like to have a motion sim, as you said, that's rare to come by as a standard sim to kind of drivers work with. Normally drivers we have something like that which just stays still, does nothing too fancy, just does the job. So yeah, it's always gonna be different. I mean, that's probably the closest you're gonna get if and without going over the top. So yeah, I think you have less feel with the simulator and stuff like that. I think you just don't have as much feel. That's the main thing.
I mean, I say that, but years ago, I also did a tour of the Aston Martin factory and went in one of their simulators, which wasn't bad. And this was probably about 2014. So we're probably talking 9 years ago now. But it's crazy because you get these, they go, yeah, you get this wheel, it's true shock, you'll feel like you're in the car, but not really, because you're not going 180 mile an hour.
Yeah,
straight straight from 180 to essentially 45, you know.
yeah,
And again, to do that in real time is genuinely pulling and pushing you back, I would imagine.
yeah,
Whereas, if you're in like on a roller coaster, whereas if you're in a simulator, you've just got this mild bit of buckling and shaking. But it's always interesting because, you get these high end simulators, they cost thousands and they say it's like the same, but I think it would cost tens and tens of thousands to make it like the same.
yeah, yeah.
So, fun fact as well. Just talking about simulators, I didn't realize that Janetta, you can actually take one of their cars out for like practicing for like 2 days for like 48K, and then you essentially own the car after, which is pretty crazy. I've never seen like a package that does that. You get like these racing experience days and stuff like that. But the fact that you can go in it for 2 days, practice, and then go, I'm just going to drive this out of here. That's pretty cool. Like
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the car being yours. To be honest, I haven't heard that much of it. Obviously, because
All right. I mean, sorry, Karen.
with the team, obviously, we got our own car from Janetta, so we kind of just keep to ourselves, do what we got to do, and that's
No,
we
no. course.
we don't really do a similar thing, if as you can imagine.
Well, I mean, this was just something when I was, because again, I wanted to do a couple of track days myself. Again, I don't drive on the roads, and although I can kind of drive, I wouldn't mind doing track days because you don't need a license, which I didn't really know about. You know, essentially, the fact that you could become a race car driver and not have a UK legal driving license is pretty gnarly. But I found it cool that they did this sort of package. And again, I'm just reading off the web, but the fact that they do that is very, very cool. Very cool indeed.
Yeah.
And that was Jeff's cue to do the big reveal, which is kind of, I think, I don't know where it's gone for a split second. Hoping he caught all that. If he hasn't, it's all cool. I can put on a few more questions till he gets back. It's
I'm having severe technical difficulties. Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's all good. If you wanted to, you got your cam live? You able to get on live?
No, it doesn't function anymore.
Oh, you've destroyed all your tech. How did you manage that? This is what I love about podcasting: is anything could happen, anything could go wrong. Well, I'll tell you what. Film it for me, and I'll cut it into the premiere when I do it. Yeah. So again, we had a big reveal planned. Jeff's having tech difficulties, so we did have a reveal for you, but it's technical difficulties. So just a couple more quick questions. Again, it's a Friday night. You're pretty young. I'm sure you want to enjoy your evening while it's off season. So just a couple of mild questions for yourself. These are a few fan questions. Again, if you see, I've been reading off all these cue cards all evening. Not that anyone would know. So, have you ever had any injuries at all?
I don't think I've obviously had a few minor injuries. I don't think I've had anything too serious. I've been in an ambulance a few times, as you can imagine. Obviously, that could be from minor injuries or just back. That could be from minor injuries, or I think I've broken a rib or two once, but that was in karting. But I've had a few crashes in cars. But I mean, the protection is so good with obviously the 5-point harness, the hands of ice, the helmet. Unless you have a really, really big shunt, the likelihood of you getting injured is quite low. So I haven't had many too bad injuries.
I mean, broken ribs. I've had broken ribs before due to a skiing accident. But have you ever had a blood blister that was that big? Oh, deadly. That was an accident I caused today with a tape measure. So just going to put that out there. While you're driving around high speeds, us normal folk can have accidents with tape measures, somehow causing blood blisters. That was a fan question, by the way. And I also did it changing a strip light, which is pretty cool.
All right.
It's So we've now finally got Jeff back on cam. Do you want to do the big
sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Do you want to do the big reveal? I'm glad you got all the cues. The cues were great.
I took the logo that you had sent me yourself, and we had it hand painted for you guys.
Lovely. Thank you very much. That is awesome.
We have a certificate to show it is one of a kind. It has been hand painted by an artist. That will be heading your way soon.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
There we go. We've got a good reveal there.
Thank you.
Another fan question. Again, just these are all fan questions. Have you ever thought about putting some sort of secret agent-esque gadget in your car, like, that spills oil slicks out the back during the race?
I think, we've all every driver talks about it. If you could put some weird James Bond kind of attachment to the back of your car, but obviously, if I would pick one,
if you could choose one, that's perfect. What would you choose?
Smoke bomb would be great on the back. You know, when you get out and a bit of smoke, that would be great.
That's
Uh,
actually a really good one.
That'd probably be my first choice.
I had down my answer as a magnet, like a really big magnet where you could just on the back and you could drag them in or propel them off. So you could reverse the polarity. So like
Nice.
they'd be coming up trying to get on your slipstream, and then you could switch it from the north to the south and just shoot them off backwards. Again, these are all fan questions. I didn't spend 2 hours today writing these. These are from the fans. Have you ever been hungry midway through a race and you've gone, oh, I need to eat something? Have you ever had to do that? Like eat a bunch of Ben and Jerry's or chew some gum?
I'm always hungry. Surprise, surprise. I'm always hungry anyway. But in the car, you don't have time to be hungry unless maybe if you're doing an endurance race, which I haven't had a chance to do just yet. You probably get those feelings then. But no, I don't tend to get hungry in the car.
Would you do an endurance race?
I would love to do an endurance race. I think that's where I want to end up. Maybe in the likes of Nürburgring 24 hours or
Ooh.
the Le Mans series in general. I think that would be great. That's the end goal. I
What-
think.
Going off the fan questions, this is my own question. What do you think about them taking so many? They've reduced the Nürburgring. It used to be much bigger. It's now, I think they've took like 5-6 miles off it or something.
I don't think they have. I think there's definitely two layouts. You've got the
Oh.
GP. You've got the GP circuit, and then you've got the Nordschleife, which is the full length track. So I think
So
you've got the.
So they've
Go
still
on.
got the full length track.
Yeah, they still got the full length track. They still race
Oh.
that every year. But they
My
also got
sources
the
are way off.
GP circuit, which they do all the other racing on as well.
God damn, my sources were off on that. That's crazy. I've been in the belief that they got rid of a couple of miles. Thanks for that, sources. Well, couple more minor questions. You ever thought, as a mild prank, replacing, again, this is a fan question, replacing all your pit crew with 3D cardboard cutouts from Amazon? So you get like a celebrity Donny DeVito, you get a Schwarzenegger, and you just basically you sabotage your opponent, and you just go, yeah, your pit crew's over there, and there's Danny DeVito, 4 foot, whatever he is, holding a spare tire. You ever thought about any of that?
I've personally, I've never thought about that, but now being told about it, it could be quite a funny idea to do. But no, I haven't thought about that one.
I mean, I personally, if I was a racing driver, I'd be pulling off a lot of old college style pranks. The last question I will ask, and this is the last question. I've ran this by my own team. Have you ever done a lap and you're going round and you're looking at again, you take a small glance at the crowd and you go, man, they're pretty good looking. So the next time you've gone round a little bit slower and had a slower lap just to get a better look, you go, yep, cool. And then the next lap you go, right, I've got to put my foot down. You ever done that? It's pretty cool.
I do glance at the crowd on my out lap to kind of see how many's there, but I don't think whatever you're doing, you're always going a bit too fast to look at an individual. So
well, that's why you slow down on the second lap, so you can, it's something. Again, that wasn't my question; it was a fan question. They sent that in to me, and I just wrote it down on these children's drawings. Look, that's how professional we are on the Posthuman Podcast. Well, listen, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. We've been sat here tonight with Mackenzie Douglas. It's been very, very fun, very, very professional, I feel. I want to give a shout out again to Fox Motorsport, to Janetta, to also Hubs Goods. And again, we've got the Xbox Series S we're giving away. You can do that all in your spare time during your Christmas period, folks. Is there anything you want to plug, Mackenzie? Anything you want to say? Any last remarks?
No, I'm looking forward to working with both you and Jeff for the next season. I mean, Hub's good so far. I think we've been a great partnership so far. And to carry that on through 2024, I'm really looking forward to it.
No, it's going to be perfect. I can't wait to get full gonzo journalism next year and Do it all live, face to face. It's going to be very cool. Well, listen, this has been the Posthuman Podcast. I've been your host, Dr. Timothy Turner. We'll catch you on the next show, people. Thank you very much. We'll have to edit in some music because, well, I'm not just going to put it back like that. Thank you very much, people. Catch you next time. Bye, bye, bye. Let's stop that stream.
Tell me what I should wear. Doesn't matter, don't care. Disappear slowly. I don't wanna know me. I think I lost touch with me. I think I'm too tired to sleep. Don't know what else to do. Get so sick in my room, so I stare at the floor. I don't know anymore. Who was I before we met and I got bored? All my days are the same. I don't know how to be me. I'm too lonely to hang. I'll text back in a week. I hunt myself. I don't let in the sunlight. How can I tell? Is this my afterlife? Offline, I'm not there. My reflection is a jump scare. If you gotta ask, I'm great. If you wanna meet up, too late. Why you wanna talk to me? No, there's nothing wrong with me. I think that we can all agree. I fucking died socially, so I stare at the floor. I don't know anymore. If you knew me before.
Wait till I tell you everything.
All my days are the same. I don't know how to be me. I'm too lonely to hang. I'll text back in a week. I hunt myself. I don't let in the sunlight. How can I tell? Is this my afterlife? I think it's time to change. New view, but same mistakes. Pack up the thoughts of you left in my room. All my days are the same.